My name is Dovey, so I'm founding partner, founder for like Primitive Ventures, and we are a multi-strategy investment firm with no outside capital, and then trying to build a better future for both the IQ 50 and IQ 150. And I've been showing to a lot of people that like Rushi is my favorite founder, like probably the favorite founder for like this cycle. So like have been in this space for 10 years now. Like this is my like fourth cycle. Yeah, so I'm definitely
Ouch.
a boomer. I know, right? Yeah, so it's a funny story. It's like when I invested in like Rushi, and then so he even couldn't go to bar.
Yeah.
Like, so he just couldn't go to bar legally.
In the United States. In Singapore, I could.
Like Singapore, yeah. So I know like Rushi, you have been through a lot of like you came from a very humble like background, right? Because unlike many other from like jump from like all this very like top like pedigree, and you don't have that pedigree when we first met, and
I still don't.
Yeah, so you still don't, right? And so you're really grassroots. Can you just tell us like the story of that, and then so how you just like drop out and hustle all the way and just like keep grinding?
Yeah, so I started my career in engineering. I was always interested in distributed systems and cybersecurity. I was the youngest engineer at United Health Group, helped them convert on-prem databases to cloud. But specifically, I was really into crypto because my family friend was into Cosmos, studying from osmosis, and I was really interested in the whole Cosmos thesis back then. I don't know how that plays out today, but Cosmos was cool back then. Was an early engineer in the space and started building in Move, I would say 2022. The general thesis behind this initiative was I was used to like 5 users on Cosmos and 10 users on Ethereum, and here was the opportunity for Facebook to bring 1 billion users, literally 1 billion users, to crypto via the DM project. So I was like in college, had about $1,000, maybe less in my bank account, and started writing Move. My co-founder was a few years older than me, and he was also building a Move. He got into crypto to make ends meet, as his father was in the Vietnam War and had to use crypto to make bills pay and stuff like that. So then we started working together. November 2022, we dropped out of college, and it's been a ride since then.
Cool. Yeah, and then so you guys have started in like the Avalanche ecosystem back in the day as well,
Yeah.
right? So like that's when we first noticed about you guys, and then so we have seen so many like layer 2s out there, and then so like Avalanche, and now even also branded as like layer 2, and so layer 2 just like come and go, and why you want to build another like layer 2?
So I think in the evolution of Ethereum scaling, you had optimistic rollups, which started off as like arbitrary optimism. Then you had ZK rollups, ZK sync, scroll, etc. And now there's opportunity for this category of next-gen rollups. The general thesis behind Ethereum scaling was having these L2s to scale L1 execution. What we quickly found out is that Solana, Aptos, Sui, and future L1s, they have much faster execution than any Ethereum layer 2 EVM layer 2 could offer. And then this cycle, we saw the rise of Solana meme coins, Solana trading. Mostly all retail traders, I'd say, have migrated to Solana and adjacent ecosystems to trade. So Ethereum is fundamentally, I would say, falling back in terms of this user experience where you don't have low latency, you have really expensive fees. And if you look at like EVM layer 2s, most tap out like 100 TPS. So if we're ever optimizing where we have millions of users on chain, EVM layer 2s today can't scale. So this idea of next-gen L2s where you can bring Solana speed to Ethereum got us excited. I was an early builder in Aptos, and I was really excited by the moving system. Very, very fast transactions, but most importantly, real-time security, where every time you execute a smart contract, checking for resource type memory safety. For us, the biggest issue is the $4.5 billion lost every year in smart contract hacks. So think of like Solana speed and your favorite auditor combined. That's the Move thesis. And we wanted to bring it to Ethereum, so make Ethereum compatible and scale Ethereum in a better way.
Yeah, just talking about like Aptos and Sui, and like those are just like golden spooners, right? And so I've been joking with all my portfolio founders that like you either have to be like golden spooner or like you need to have your own sugar daddy. And then so it seems like movement right now is like very community driven, and like there's no sugar daddy behind movement yet, right?
Dovey wins. Free mommy.
And so like we have seen like Aptos and Sui like raise like over like hundreds of millions, and then so somehow they just like didn't actually get the adoption that we expected, right? we have been talking about this. Like, there's a lot of like homeless developers. It's a homeless like move developers, and then so we can potentially house them. But like, why did it happen at the first place? Because they have all the resources.
I think their background was like Web2, and for where they are today, I think they're focused on like BlackRock and institutions, and they're doing a phenomenal job with that. I think where we come from was like the builders of Web3 degen landscape, and it was hard for the early moving system to capture that. For context, Move launched, like Aptos launched in November 2022, which is the week after FTX collapsed. And so we launched depths of the bear market. So the move ecosystem was born in the worst possible scenario, maybe one of the worst possible scenarios in crypto history. So that combined with this like Web2, Silicon Valley, soon tie mentality led for some not discontent amongst developers. But if you look empirically, monthly active developers for Move developers is 7.5%, up double from last year. We expect it to go to 14.9% next year. So even if the Move devs or nascent point doesn't exist, it's still faster than the, I believe, SVM's growth for the first 2 years. So alt VMs are difficult by trade. It's a different language. So the cold start problem is very difficult. And I think the work we're doing is a Web3 native way. We're young, we're on Ethereum, we're even compatible, and we know how to attract the degens and native builders because we were builders. So I think that gives us the edge to bring more talent to the moving system.
Yeah, so like what I realized is that Move developer, like when it comes to a growth rate, is actually the highest.
Yep.
Right, yeah. And then also like the other interesting thing is, and then just like kids nowadays, and then so like kids like probably like Gen Z and now Gen Alpha, right? Like Gen Z, like they don't use Facebook because their parents on Facebook. And then now, like when it comes to the Gen Alpha, and then so they have their Finster and their like Ringster. Like Finster is their like fake Instagram, and like Ringster is their real Instagram. And then so their like real Instagram is only exposed to their like actual friends. And then so what I realized is that for the younger generation developer, for like Gen Z and for like 22, like 23, and they don't see Rust as cool, or they don't see Solidity as cool, and they always want to do some new, like you said, looking for the new coolest like programming language, right? Yep. And like programming language is basically the base of the new code. Yep. And when it comes to Aptos and Soy, and I think they somehow just failed just like building the core of developer around it.
Yep. I think what's funny is that I think there's more developers at Facebook than are in crypto total. Yep. So like, obviously not all Facebook developers are crypto. I would argue that's very few. But the thesis is like, there's very, very few developers in crypto. The best analogy, if you look in Web2, is you had PHP, which was like the original way to build websites. And there wasn't that many PHP developers. I wrote PHP, it was a shit show. Then JavaScript came to market, which was the best framework and language to write websites. And then you had React and Vue. So to that analogy, Solidity is like the PHP of crypto today. Yeah. You have Rust-based programming, which has brought Solana VM to market, you have Move VM market, you have alternative VMs that are all adapting Rust, and you have different frameworks. So Anchor is the Solana VM framework, and then you have Move as the Move VM framework. That's like React and Vue and JavaScript. So yes, in the past, Curve, Aave, Uniswap, all these blue chip DeFi protocols found PMF in the EVM, but the future of actually having on-chain games or on-chain social apps or things that my parents will use, Dovey's kids will use, you guys will use, will be in Rust-based programming. We saw that in AI. Microsoft announced they're migrating to AI-based code bases for Rust, and you'll see that in crypto as well.
Yeah, like there's always this lagging adoption period, like when it comes to like a new framework and like a new programming language. Yep. And can you just tell us a little bit more about what Move is that specifically good for?
Yep. So there's two main things, right? You have speed, which is the ability to bring block STM, which is a high throughput, optimistic parallelization engine. That's derived from the work from Aptos, Sui, Solana, et cetera. They will do high throughput transactions. We're bringing that to Ethereum. If you look at most EVM layer 2s today, they're slow, they're clunky. I don't know if anyone's used Arbitrum Base recently. Phenomenal technology to start off with from scaling Ethereum, but simply cannot compete with Solana in terms of usability and UX. That's the majority of trading volume and user experience, and even the pumped up fun trade meme coins that retail is using are on Solana because the UX is so much better. So the first part of the battle is bringing that UX that Solana has to Ethereum liquidity. And the second part, which is not as sexy, and that's what we say, make blockchain security sexy again, is the fact that we're trying to stop the hacks that we see today. Every year, like I touched on, there's $4.5 billion lost. If we ever want to see my parents use crypto or my institutions use crypto, like actually on-chain DeFi, they have to trust the system they're using is secure. So with a constant form verification, you have the move prover runtime. So you check the code for type safety, memory safety. There's around, now with Sui launching token up, it's like 1.7 billion in TVL move and 0 hacks to date, knock on wood. So while there's over 4 billion lost every year in EVM, the move ecosystem is still bulletproof. I'm sure it's not perfect, there's going to be workarounds, but general thesis is speed and security, and we're bringing it to Ethereum.
Yeah, and especially if we want to funnel like the TradFi liquidity over to DeFi, because I see the line becoming more and more blurred, right?
Yep.
And then we have seen the open interest on like CME flood Binance already. And we have seen like ETF. Like ETF will be the biggest like collateral like going forward like for our like crypto lending space. So like those are the things that all require like an ultra secure and compliant kind of like so can pass their internal compliance check.
Yep.
Yeah.
If you look at Aptos, like they're partnering with Hamilton Lane, BlackRock, Arthur Hayes is talking about all the institutions they're bringing to Aptos. So I think the tradition of the move chains and institutions is actually bringing this new wave of users that never would have touched crypto in the past. So I'm pretty bullish on the moving system across the board for this.
Cool. Yeah, so like Rushi, like do you have any, so when I look at founders, right, so one interesting background story, like because we have our internal decision-making process, and then so all my team are really against to invest in movement back in the day. And then I actually use my silver bullet. So
right.
Because I cannot veto everyone, but I can use my silver bullet. So I actually use my silver bullet on like movement, like even though like the fund has no outside money, but we still follow the process. And so my biggest takeaway from that is it's always about the founder and also the founder's like growth potential, and then whether like the founder can up hire. Because I have seen so many founders that they cannot grow with the vision. Like Rushi, you recently hired someone much more senior than you are, right?
Yeah.
So can almost be your dad, I guess.
I think the average age on the team is like 45.
Yeah.
Our head of research was the head of research at Mantle and head of formal education at Consensus, and he's literally twice my age, which is pretty fun. But I think like as a founder, the number one thing to recognize is weaknesses. So I recognize I'm not going to have a PhD. I'm not going to be the smartest guy in the room. In fact, I'm probably the dumbest guy in the room right now. But I know how to find talent and bring the talent to me.
Yeah, so like how to up hire like effectively?
I think it's like the first few hires we made were within the community, and also like we were early moving systems, so I knew the devs that were really good that wanted to try infrastructure project. Mm-hmm. I think for like the senior level hires, it's explaining the vision that we have this vision for a future where Ethereum can scale fastly and secure, and find talent that were in disgruntled positions. Mm-hmm. So I was like, okay, this chain isn't doing so well right now. Who's the top person for this? So there were some leading L1s and L2s that were leading L1s and L2s in hype, and then in the bear market kind of fell off. And these are people that had obviously token positions and they weren't doing phenomenal. So it's, if you're hiring, I would recommend going after that. Maybe poaching is the better term here, but I would say I'm pretty good at that.
Cool. And then what are the other interesting applications like currently like built on Move, like just like built on like movement? And
yep.
Yeah, so because I know like the developer base is a highly spread out like geographically, yep. And there's even developer in like Hangzhou, Shanghai, yep. Korea, and then so like Vietnam, yep. Right? And then so like, do you see this very global developer like building interesting things like on top of like movement?
Yeah, so I'll start with DeFi, but it's like a common principle. Meridian, which is kind of our core liquid staking protocol, is offering secure RWAs. So if you're an institution, we want to be the hub for secure DeFi on Ethereum. They're announcing their big seed raise next week, so I'm super excited about that. Hopefully it didn't spoil. But it's really interesting is like you assemble a core DeFi ecosystem, what's beyond that. For Deepin, we're working with two major protocols. Up Network is a mobile phone that has sold over $5 million in phones.
Yeah, like that one is interesting. Like the guys from Samsung, right?
Yeah, so
yeah.
Head of sales of Samsung and the head of Mediatron bringing a movement phone to market. Second one is Sentiment, which is a jewelry brand that's doing on-chain memories. So every time you gift something to your mom, you can tap your phone and you can remember exactly when you gifted it. On the gaming side, we have like a fully on-chain RPG game, which is called Infinite Seas, like battleships. So it's super cool to see that. And I think like what's really interesting we're putting a lot of effort towards is like this overlap of like alternative assets to the moving system. So next week we're announcing Cardano coming to movement via
What? Cardano?
I'm actually giga bullish Cardano. It's an asset class. It's a number 6 token.
I know.
And no one is touching it.
Yeah, agree.
So next week we should have a big announcement of a team bringing Cardano, which is hundreds of millions of dollars of TVL to movement, and then Bitcoin ecosystem, giga long.
Cool. Okay, we are perfectly on time, and thank you, Rishi. And we are in for the long journey. Yeah, I will see you probably in a decade, and you will be working on your third company then.
No, moving for life. Thank you guys. Really appreciate it.